Okay, I'm going to start by reading the sunshine notice. Pursuant to the provision of Chapter 231 of the laws of 1976, the Open Public Meeting Act, Mr. Thompson has notified the public that the notice of date, time, location, and agenda of this meeting, to the extent known, is provided at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting in the following manner. 1, by posting such notice on the public announcement board of the Lakewood Board of Education offices in the Lakewood Township Municipal Building, by reading such notice to the office of the Asbury Park Press, by filing such notice with the court secretary, and by mailing such notice to all individuals who requested and paid for a copy of the same.
Buenas noches. El señor acaba de decir las regulaciones para esta noche. Todo se encuentra en este documento que está al frente, en la mesa del frente. Básicamente son regulaciones para poder encontrarnos en este auditorio esta noche.
Okay, I'm going to do a roll call. Mr. Burrell? Here. Mr. Goldsmith?
Here.
Mr. Jacobovich?
Here.
Mr. Jankowitz? Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Weinberger? Mr. Zlatkin? Mrs. Gonzalez?
Here.
Mr. Iron?
Here.
Toda la junta directiva está presente.
Okay, so we've got the budget presentation tonight, so I'm going to be coming down to the floor and getting things started.
Esta noche vamos a hablar sobre el presupuesto.
Okay, I apologize for having my back to you.
Disculpen que les estoy dando la espalda.
Welcome and thank you for coming to the Lakewood Public School District special meeting for the tentative budget for 2016-2017.
Muchas gracias por venir y vamos a empezar la reunión del presupuesto.
Okay, with the, I'd like to personally thank all of the people on the list up there, because putting the budget together is a collaborative effort and it takes a lot of teamwork.
Quiero darle las gracias a las personas cuyos nombres están en la pantalla porque hacer un presupuesto es bastante difícil.
Today is the March 21st, and we're here for the approval of the tentative budget.
Hoy día es marzo 21 y vamos a ver si logramos llegar a un acuerdo para el presupuesto tentativo.
After tonight, we will be meeting with the county office and looking for county approval of the budget.
Luego de esta reunión nos vamos a encontrar con los oficiales del condado para ver si ellos aprueban el presupuesto.
And nothing on tonight's budget is going to be finalized.
Nada de lo que se va a hablar esta noche está escrito en piedra, ¿ok? Es solo tentativo.
After we have the county approval, we will be having another public hearing between April 25th and May 9th. That date is still yet to be determined.
Después que hablemos con los oficiales del condado, vamos a tener otra reunión para finalizar el presupuesto.
And then on May 11th, we will be doing the final approval of the budget at our May 11th regular board meeting.
En la reunión de mayo 11, ese día será el presupuesto final, la reunión para saber cuánto se ha aprobado.
I'm going to be discussing the state aid revenues at this point.
Esta noche voy a hablar del dinero que ha entrado al estado, aquí al condado de Lakewood.
As you can see, there's a very small increase from the 15-16 year to the 16-17 year, to $238,000.
El incremento para nuestro distrito es bajo, como pueden ver en la pantalla. Hay una diferencia muy pequeña del año pasado a este.
We have a small, or it's important to notice that the state aid figures did not include the extraordinary aid at this point.
Quiero que sepan que la cantidad que ven en pantalla en este momento no es extraordinaria.
And then in the lower portion, we have the debt service aid. The debt service aid is going to be going up a considerable amount, and that's because the referendum that was passed, we're going to be receiving the additional aid from the state to make those payments.
La cantidad que ven abajo de la pantalla es lo que vamos a utilizar para la asistencia, para los servicios de asistencia especiales, y vamos a esperar a que pase el referéndum.
These are the revenues for the 15-16 year, 16-17 year, and then on the right-hand side we have the differences between the two.
Esto es lo que tenemos ahora mismo en crédito o en entradas del año 15-16, y a tu mano izquierda ves la diferencia.
At the top we have the local revenues. In the middle we have the state revenues, and at the bottom we have some additional revenues.
Arriba de la pantalla se ve la cantidad de dinero que tenemos a nivel local. Luego a la mitad se ve lo que tenemos sobre el dinero del estado, y lo de abajo es una cantidad que podemos usar para diferentes cosas en el distrito.
And the very top line is important to everyone. That's the local tax levy.
La primera línea es la más importante, así que presten atención.
The second section there from the state, this portion does include the extraordinary aid information, which does decrease a little bit in the 16-17 year.
La cantidad que ven en el medio de la pantalla es lo que se va a utilizar para actividades extraordinarias, y como ven hay ha bajado esa cantidad un poco para el año 16-17.
And then again at the bottom, or in the lower section, the other revenues, we have an additional $150,000, and you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the overall revenues have been increased by the $2.4 million.
Como pueden ver al final, los números de abajo son $150,000 que tenemos ahora mismo en entradas para el distrito, y casi es una acumulación de $2,400,000.
This is an illustration of the 16-17 revenues. It basically just shows that the majority of the money that the district receives comes from the taxpayers. That's the largest portion, and then the second largest portion, about just under 25%, comes from the state aid.
Como pueden ver, la cantidad más grande viene definitivamente de los impuestos que pagan los ciudadanos. El otro 25% viene del Estado.
When a budget is created, we take what we've done in this particular case from the 15, 16 year. We bring it over flat and we increase it for anticipated increases.
Cuando estamos realizando un presupuesto, vemos la cantidad de crédito que nos queda y conforme a eso vamos incrementando para actividades que puedan presentarse.
That's what those are the numbers represented in the column on the left.
Estos son los números que se representan en la columna en la izquierda.
And as you can see, they're considerably larger than the revenues that we had.
Y si se dan cuenta, esos números son mucho más grandes que lo que en realidad tenemos ahora mismo.
So the column in the middle, the amount of cuts, represents the amounts of money that were cut from the individual lines.
La cantidad del medio es la cantidad que tentativamente vamos a recortar o a reducir.
And the amount after cuts, you can now see that we brought the expenses down to equal the revenues.
Y si te das cuenta, la cantidad a tu mano derecha la hemos bajado para que más o menos haya un balance proporcionado.
There's a lot of information here, so I'm just going to kind of briefly go over the concept.
Hay mucha información aquí, así que les voy a dar un resumen rápido.
Again, these are the expenses. We've got the 15-16 amounts, the 16-17 amounts, and then the differences on the left.
Aquí tenemos los gastos que se han hecho del 15 al 16, del 16 y que están proyectados a hacerse el siguiente año.
So, and then the other thing I'd like to point out is I'll just kind of highlight the very top one. The regular classroom instruction is going to be one of our largest cuts.
Quiero enfatizar que una de las categorías que se va a recortar bastante son lo de del campo de los maestros de la instrucción.
And two of our largest increases are going to be the tuition and transportation.
Y lo que va a incrementar en nuestro presupuesto va a ser las matrículas y los buses.
And then I'm just going to go on and give you this is a visual of what it would look like.
Esto es una ilustración de lo que más o menos estamos proyectando.
And again, by the size of the pieces of the pie, you can see that the tuition are the largest, with the benefits and transportation as well.
Si te das cuenta, los pedazos más grandes es donde hay más dinero y los pedazos más cortos es donde vamos a empezar a recortar.
Because of the cuts that we're having to the expense lines and the difficulty we had balancing the budget, we're going to be offering separate questions to be voted on, and they are the 8 of them as follows. So we'll give you an opportunity to kind of read them.
Precisamente porque estamos teniendo problemas en este momento para balancear el presupuesto, estas son las 8 preguntas que vamos a darle a ustedes los ciudadanos. Por favor, léanlas.
And I'll go through. You've got the dollar amounts are on the top.
El dinero está arriba, la cantidad de dinero está arriba.
And right below that is a brief description.
Abajo, en la segunda línea, hay una descripción.
So there'll be, the first one is cutting 68 teaching staff.
La primera línea es que vamos a recortar 68 maestros de las escuelas,
and then preventing 3 guidance counselors,
3 consejeros,
3 administrative staff,
3 administradores.
sports clubs for the middle school,
Vamos a cortar los deportes de la escuela intermedia,
late buses,
los buses que recogen después de la escuela a los niños.
educational supplies,
Vamos a cortar los útiles escolares para los niños.
and then there's a proposal for deficit reduction plan,
De este modo podemos ver alguna propuesta para ver cómo reducimos el presupuesto.
and then finally there's the district home care nursing services.
Y finalmente vamos a reducir el cuidado de niños a quienes se les tiene que atender en casa.
This, the next slide shows the tax impact. So
Esta próxima ilustración te enseña el impacto de cómo esto nos está afectando.
please note that it's a preliminary tax information as well as estimated tax information.
Esta es una información preliminaria, estos son los impuestos que tendrían ustedes que empezar a pagar o a incrementar o reducir, depende del presupuesto que se vaya a finalizar.
And the top line is going to be the estimated tax increase for the base budget. So that's for the tax levy increase.
La línea de arriba, la primera línea es una cantidad preliminaria donde puede que se incrementen los impuestos.
And then below that are the amounts representative for the individual questions.
Y luego abajo se ve la cantidad de dinero que puede incrementar o reducir dependiendo las preguntas que ustedes han visto anteriormente.
And that pretty much wraps it up, so we're just open for questions.
Y ese es el resumen de esta noche de mi parte. Si tienen alguna pregunta, pueden empezar en un momento.
We can save it for the public portion, I would think. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fine. So we'll save the questions for the public portion.
Mine presented a project and one clap. Normally put it so that the water is actually get another slide, annualization.
Before we open it up to public comment, the Board of Education wanted to express through a resolution its grave concerns about this budget, which really results, as you can see this evening.
Antes de empezar las preguntas del público, quiero decirles que la Junta Directiva está muy consternado por la cantidad de recortes que se pueden dar.
This budget results in dramatic cuts to staff, valuable staff.
En este recorte se ve una cantidad grande de maestros a quienes van a recortar y reducir en el personal.
services and programs. So I'd like to read this resolution.
Quiero leerles esta resolución.
And for the young lady who's translating, I can give you a copy of it so that after I'm done reading it in English, if you want to translate it into Spanish.
Sure.
Whereas the Board of Education finds that the state of New Jersey has failed to provide the Lakewood School District with its fair share of state aid and funding that takes into account, among other things, increased district enrollment, increased special education costs, and increased transportation responsibilities for both in-district and out-of-district students. And whereas the board finds that the continued failure or refusal of the state to fully fund the School Funding Reform Act and the district's state aid entitlement has created an untenable burden on the district and its finances, such that the district's budget deficit is growing by millions of dollars each year, despite our best efforts to control costs. And whereas the administration and state monitors have proposed a tentative budget for the 2016-17 school year that results in cutting valuable staff, educational programs, extracurricular activities, transportation and services for the district in order to arrive at a balanced budget within the state-mandated 2% tax levy cap. And whereas the administration and state monitors are proposing a referendum in November or about sometime in the fall that asks the Lakewood community to raise an additional $8.5 million in additional taxes to fund these staff programs and services, which, if approved, would result in a permanent increase in the district's tax levy. And whereas the Board of Education is adamantly opposed to cutting these staff programs and services from the budget, but it cannot support another referendum which asks our already overtaxed community to further support tax increases because the state has neglected its financial responsibilities to this district. And whereas given the public's overwhelming defeat of the January 2016 referendum on courtesy busing, the board is highly pessimistic that a referendum in November will obtain the requisite community support. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby expresses its disapproval of any budget that cuts valuable staff, programs, and services from the district as a result of the state's failure to provide the district with its fair share of state aid and funding. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education hereby expresses its disapproval of any referendum which would shift responsibility for the district's growing budget deficit from the state of New Jersey to the overtaxed Lakewood community. And be it further resolved that the board hereby petitions Senator Robert Singer, Assemblyman Sean Kane, and Assemblyman David Rybel to seek emergency bailout aid for the district to help balance our budget so as to avoid cutting staff programs and services which will have a highly negative impact on the students of Lakewood. And be it further resolved that the board demands immediate state action to address the precise issues raised in this resolution. And be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution shall be forwarded by the board secretary to the district's state and local legislators, Governor Chris Christie, Commissioner Hespy, the Executive County Superintendent of Schools, Mr. Glenn Forney, and the Township Committee. May I have a motion?
Motion. Steve. Isaac, second. Any discussion?
Who was the first on that?
David.
Thanks. I have no comment on your resolution.
After.
Mr. Burrell? Mr. Goldsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Jagopovich?
Yes.
Mr. Zlatkin? Yes. Mrs. Gonzalez? And Mr. Ahan?
Yes. Want to give the young lady a chance to translate?
Ok, para mis padres hispanos voy a hacer un resumen de la resolución que la Junta Directiva acaba de verbalizar. Se ha resuelto que esta noche la Junta Directiva se opone de manera rotunda a que estos a que este dinero sea recortado, a que el presupuesto sea recortado, a que los deportes de la escuela intermedia sean recortados, debido a un incremento de las registraciones de los niños en el distrito y fuera del distrito, de la carga que tenemos ahora mismo sobre nosotros, sobre el distrito. Se nos ha hecho muy difícil poder balancear este presupuesto. Hemos hecho todo el esfuerzo necesario para que la Junta Directiva pueda llegar a un acuerdo. Sin embargo, el Estado nos está negando los fondos necesarios para poder continuar. Nosotros, como ciudadanos de Lakewood, no podemos seguir incrementando los impuestos a los ciudadanos y por lo mismo, cada vez el presupuesto sigue subiendo. Nos oponemos, pero no podemos seguir incrementando los impuestos a todas las personas, solo porque el Estado se niega a incrementar la ayuda financiera para Lakewood. La Junta Directiva se opone a estos recortes y se lo hemos hecho saber a través de esta resolución a los oficiales del condado necesarios para que ellos de alguna manera puedan ayudarnos, ya que estos recortes van a impactar de manera negativa a todos nuestros niños.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're going to now move on to the public participation portion of the agenda.
I'm going to have the superintendent say a few words as well.
Okay. I would just like to say that the proposed budget for the 2016-2017 school year is tragically inadequate, and one can only predict that its effect on the students of the Lakewood School District will be devastating. Creating an entire school system from kindergarten through grade 12 with an average class size of 38 to 39 students with an English language learner population of 80% and a special needs population over 20% is a system that fails its students. It is my professional opinion that this budget offers an inferior education compared to the education offered to those students in wealthier towns in Ocean County and across the state. With that being said, I cannot certify a budget that does not offer the students of the Lakewood School District a thorough and efficient education, nor does it meet minimum adequacy standards that allow our students to compete in the labor market with students who have had educational opportunities that have prepared them to enter the global workplace. Thank you.
Ella es la superintendente del estado del distrito de Lakewood, la señora Laura Winters, y voy a hacer un resumen de lo que ella acaba de decir. Yo, como superintendente del distrito, me opongo rotundamente a los recortes del presupuesto. Tenemos una población de casi el 80% de niños hispanohablantes y el 20% de educación especial. Nuestros niños están recibiendo una educación inferior comparado a los condados vecinos. Yo no puedo certificar este presupuesto, puesto que nuestros niños serán los más impactados de manera negativa.
Okay, we're now going to open up to public participation because we have a long list of individuals that would like to speak this evening. We're going to limit, please, to 3 minutes per person. I will hold my hand up when there is the time is up. So we'd ask that everybody respect the time limits just so that we can get to all the names and have everybody have an opportunity to speak. So with that said, Ms. Shaw.
Vamos a empezar la apertura para los comentarios públicos. Por favor, 3 minutos por persona y respete el tiempo.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Shaw, proud president of the Lakewood Education Association. I am here tonight to speak about the threat of cuts to the school budget and their devastating effects on our staff, students, and community.
We'll wait till you're finished.
Okay. I understand you are faced with a difficult task. After all, it's not the first time we've had to come before the board in order to express our concerns about budget cuts. In the years since I've been here, we've lost programs, we've lost staff, We've even lost classroom supplies. For years, this district and its staff are doing as much as we can with as little as we've been given. However, as I think about the very real concerns when it comes to our school budget, one topic continually comes to mind: unfunded mandates. Whether it's complying with the anti-bullying HIB law, adhering to the Achieve New Jersey law, or your responsibilities in park implementations, when all is said and done, these are all examples of mandates from the State Department of Education. All of these mandates come with a price tag, and yet the funding formula does not provide Lakewood with enough money to cover all of the necessary costs. It is well known this has been happening for years, and yet the mandates keep coming. State mandates are not going to disappear, and the bottom line is, as valuable and as important as they also cost money. Money that school districts, including ours, just don't have. It shouldn't be a question of this over that, nor should we have to sacrifice services, programs, and people to comply with these mandates. So in closing, I urge this Board of Education to stop looking to close the gaps by making more cuts to our programs, our staff, and our meager offerings. We literally cannot afford to lose any more than we have already. Let's instead find a way to work together and redirect this budget crisis appropriately. If the state wants to mandate programs, then I urge you to take a stand to push for proper funding in Lakewood. I assure you that LEA members will be with you every step of the way. Thank you.
Este es un resumen de lo que la señora es la señora Shaw. Ella es la presidenta de la Unión de Lakewood, ¿ok? Del sindicato para nosotros los maestros. Ella, en resumen, ha dicho lo siguiente. Me llamo Kimberly Shaw y soy presidente de la educación de maestros. Estoy aquí esta noche para hablar sobre los recortes que podrían producirse. Yo entiendo que ustedes como directiva están pasando por un momento difícil al tratar de balancear el presupuesto. Sin embargo, esta no es la primera vez que esto sucede. Nosotros ya hemos perdido varios programas en el pasado. Hemos perdido maestros, hemos perdido útiles escolares. Por muchos años, el distrito y los que trabajamos en él hacemos de todo para poder darle a nuestros niños lo que podemos con lo poco que tenemos. Sin embargo, hay cosas que de verdad nos preocupan, porque si el presupuesto sigue bajando, entonces ¿cómo nosotros vamos a cumplir las órdenes que son puestas por el Estado? Necesitamos tener eso en cuenta. Sobre todo, una muy importante es la ley del bullying o del acoso. Tenemos que adherirnos a la ley y ser responsables por la implementación necesaria de los entrenamientos, no solamente para el bullying y el acoso, sino para la implementación de los exámenes estatales como el PARC. Todo esto tenemos que tomar en cuenta. Si ustedes como directiva toman la iniciativa de ir hacia el Estado y pedir el dinero necesario para nuestro distrito, nosotros como sindicato les vamos a apoyar.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Good evening, Pastor Glenn Wilson. I'm shocked tonight.
Shouldn't be. No, you shouldn't be.
But I'm not surprised, because for years we have kicked the can down the road, and we predicted this day, that the day would come when we would be in this kind of hole. But when I look at this budget, and I think about the pain that our children are going to confront, it's almost, I can't even believe that And we have to look to the state at this point to come to the rescue. I mean, I guarantee you that if we have some riots, they'll come. So now we have a bunch of children that are not going to be educated, and I don't see anybody coming to our rescue. We have to answer the question, how did we get here? Because we will never be able to solve the problem unless we figure out how in the world did we come to this point that we are facing a situation next year where we are going to revert to where we were about 5 years ago. Literally, we are giving back all of the advances that we have made in the last 5 years. This is painful, and don't know what to say. And it's not very seldom that I don't have much to say, but this is going to hurt our children very much. We have 3 state monitors here, and I know that you're listening tonight, and hopefully, given the pain that we are about to confront, that there'll be some kind of way that we can find money somewhere. In Lakewood, we as a district, we have to do all we can to govern ourselves, and that we should. But I don't believe that the money is in Lakewood anymore. So, as a citizen of this town and very much concerned for our children, I cannot tell you the pain that this is going to cause to our community, especially, looking at our teachers tonight who have sacrificed so much to bring us to where we are today. And we are about to lose 68 of them, and I pray that we are able to find ways to resolve this budget. We're all together on this, that we're not accepting this. So hopefully this unity can bring us to a place where we can resolve this issue to ensure the success of all of our children.
Thank you, Pastor. Let's go.
Voy a hacer un resumen. El señor que habló en este momento fue el pastor Wilson y dice lo siguiente: estoy muy consternado, pero no sorprendido. Veo que el presupuesto cada vez está afectando más a nuestros niños. Yo no lo puedo creer. El Estado tiene que venir a asistirnos. Esto solo va a crear más conflictos y una educación aún más defectiva para nuestros niños. ¿Cómo es que hemos llegado a este punto? ¿Qué vamos a hacer el próximo año? ¿Cómo vamos a permitir que tantas maestras salgan del distrito? Eso va a impactar directamente y negativamente a nuestros niños. Yo en realidad no entiendo lo que está sucediendo. Prácticamente todo el avance que hemos hecho en los últimos 5 años se han venido abajo con el presupuesto de esta noche. Tenemos 3 monitores estatales frente a nosotros. Ustedes deben de encontrar el dinero necesario para no fallarle a nuestros hijos. Yo pienso que el dinero de Lakewood simplemente ya no está en Lakewood. ¿A dónde se ha ido todo ese dinero? Nuestras maestras serán despedidas, serán enviadas a la calle y nuestros hijos van a ser los más afectados por toda esta tribulación. Tenemos que trabajar en conjunto y lograr una armonía en el presupuesto para el beneficio de todos.
Thank you. Ms. Gill.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to express my sincere sympathy to Mrs. Gonzalez on behalf of her family, on behalf of the recent passing of her son. My heart is broken as a mother, as I well know yours is also. First, I would like to address our state monitor. Recently, I read an article where it said Newark received $27 million. Some of it will be going to charter schools. Mr. Cerf also mentions in the article that in the education part of the budget, we are coming up $50 million short. So now we're here begging everyone to go to the state. What's lacking here? Where do you think the state is going to come up to the money for Lakewood? Red Bank, Freehold, and it was perfectly made clear that there was no money in this article. That the state is facing a $50 million deficit. Can you address that? Our state monitor?
Ms. Gill, the way we've been doing it, as you know, is we have the questions asked first,
Okay.
and we'll come back and
All right,
certainly
thank you.
answer any questions.
Also, I asked at the last meeting, what was our assets? I believe I was told $72 million. I asked what our deficit was, and they said, I believe now, I could be wrong, $132 million. What I didn't ask was, in this deficit, it did say that there was over $600,000 that was not put in for the teacher's pension, okay? Also, I didn't hear that the appeal, which we didn't appeal for the $2 million for the audit, I think it was in 2011 and 2012, the board decided not to appeal it and we had to pay back the state. Was that $2 million also included in the $132 million deficit? Also, we also now supposedly have added another $2 million to that deficit for the busing, okay? My question also is there courtesy busing in this budget? And if it isn't, okay, fine. Getting rid of the teachers, let me tell you something, this is a disgrace. My idea of this take is, as I stand here, is it was nice that our lawyer read the letter, okay? Well, guess what? You're all going to vote it down, the budget. And then they're going to turn to the state monitor and they're going to say, are you going to override this because we're not accepting this? Let me tell you something. Who are the real bad guys here? Tell me. Mr. Azzaro stood up there and said, you can't cut teachers. And yet you're telling us,
3 minutes.
you're telling us that he recommended it? You have not been honest with the public.
Thank you.
Bueno, la señora ha dicho lo siguiente. Primeramente, mis más sentidos pésames a la señora González por el fallecimiento de su hijo. Quiero empezar por hablarles al monitor estatal que está aquí hoy presente. Quiero hacer una comparación con el distrito de Newark. Newark ha recibido casi 7 millones para su distrito escolar. No solamente eso, pero también tiene escuelas adicionales para proveerle la educación necesaria a sus niños. Mas, sin embargo, aquí en Lakewood no hay nada. Cada vez los niños tienen menos. ¿Puedes explicármelo? ¿Cuál es la entrada que tenemos ahora mismo? En la última reunión me dijiste que teníamos como 72 millones en entrada en crédito y casi 130 millones que estábamos en la línea roja. También teníamos $600,000 que no fue a la pensión de los maestros. ¿Qué está sucediendo? ¿Qué está pasando con la auditoría? Tenemos que tener una auditoría eficaz para este distrito. Otra pregunta que tengo es, ¿qué está sucediendo con los buses? ¿Los buses de cortesía están incluidos en este presupuesto o no? Quiero decirles también que si ustedes recortan a tantas maestras de este distrito, eso es una total desgracia. Nuestros niños van a quedarse prácticamente sin una buena educación. Ustedes van a ser los que van a quedar como los malos de la película. Ustedes no están siendo honestos con nosotros.
Mr. Hopkins.
Bill Hobley, 30 Schoolhouse Lane, Lakewood, New Jersey. To say we have a mess is understating the situation. At this point, with this kind of a deficit, I see no way out. We are at a point of no return. What I've said to this board many times is that in business, you need to save the enterprise. Because if you don't save the enterprise, everything is lost. So you make those difficult decisions. But we've been compliant over the years in not addressing the things we could have done at the time we should have done them. And it's a growing scenario where we have reached a crescendo that now I read things like raise an additional $5,156,817 to prevent reduction in force of district staff as follows: 68 teachers. If that is necessary, we have lost the enterprise. It cannot be done. Now, I understand that mandates that were unfunded took us down the path on this. But there was a time where we had to say, stop. I'm sure that other school districts are in the same or near the same position that we are. But now it's time to begin litigation. The state can no longer force expensive mandates on school districts without the funding source to do it. They hope that your local district will come up with the additional tax money to do it. That might be well for Red Bank or Middletown. It's not okay for Lakewood. We don't have the wherewithal to do it. Now, when we try to save the enterprise, we are the highest taxed state in the nation. And yet there's not enough money for education. And when I think of the fundamental things that the state government has to provide for, it's the legal system, it's protection through the police sources. It is ensuring that you have a fair educational system that is going to educate our youth so that they become independent citizens. When that is not done, I do think that we've got a legal action here to force either take away the unfunded mandates and do them yourself, or give us the revenue to do it. Now,
Mr. Hopkins. Time.
thank you. I get one more sentence. If I read this right, the value of my home, if I wanted to add my tax burden by $1,400 over and above, more than 50% of what I pay the Township of Lakewood now, that's absurd. There is not the ability to do it. And that's why I'm sure that this school district, in collaboration with other school districts, have to start litigating. Hold this state responsible. They cannot do this to us. Thank you.
Ok, para mis padres hispanohablantes, el señor Hopkins acaba de decir lo siguiente: tenemos un problema gigantesco. Yo no veo ninguna solución a esto en este momento. Si ustedes no salvan la compañía de nuestra educación, todos nos vamos a venir abajo. Este problema ha venido creciendo y ahora no encontramos la salida. Nosotros no podemos aceptar este presupuesto. Ha llegado el momento de decir alto. El Estado no puede requerir leyes mandatorias si no se hace responsable de darnos el dinero para hacerlo. Nosotros en New Jersey somos uno de los estados en que pagamos más impuestos y es casi increíble que no haya dinero suficiente para el campo educativo. Si no le proveemos un futuro a nuestros niños, el mundo simplemente va a seguir siendo deficiente. Tenemos que hacer responsables al Estado. Si ellos nos piden que cumplamos ciertas leyes, ellos también son responsables por darnos el dinero para cumplir esas leyes. De lo contrario, ustedes como directiva pueden negarse a cumplir las leyes que ellos requieren y lo podemos hacer nosotros aquí en la ciudad como una villa. Podemos hacer que nuestros niños vayan creciendo y ayudarlos nosotros mismos. Una línea más que él añadió es que sus impuestos cada vez suben más y ahora va a tener que pagar casi $1,400 más de impuestos sobre su casa.
Thank you. Pastor Robinson.
Good evening. Pastor Jerome Robinson, 322 East 5th Street in Lakewood. I want to start by saying good evening and also ask the state monitors to come into play here in this position where the district needs so much additional funding. And I want to start by saying that, but then the next thing I'd like to ask the state monitors to do is to take over this entire board. That's what needs to happen. See, we can look at this deficit that's current now, but the problem is much bigger than that. We all know it. When the system has what's called entropy that comes in a system, we all know what that means. We all know how that happens. We all know it's been happening for multiple years. And so we can, even if they give us the money, let's look at this. Then when we get the money, what are we going to do when we get the money? The system has to be changed. This is a representation of the system right here.
Not a good representation.
I'm just saying, it has to change. When we talk about extracurricular activities, sports, I'm a graduate of Lakewood in 1982. I played sports. It helped me out a lot to stay out of trouble, to not wind up in jail or prison.